Welcome to the My Famed Explained podcast. I'm Larry Gilbert, and on this episode, I'm talking to Devo Harris. He's a two-time Grammy winner, producer, entrepreneur, and the founder of a company called Adventr, which is an interactive video company. You can check out the link to the website in our show notes down below. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search My Famed Explained. And don't forget to subscribe to the show and download the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Devo Harris and his technology and music fame explained. A little bit about your youth. You were born in Georgia. You're the son of military parents. You spent some time living in Germany, but went to high school in Kansas City. And then eventually you would go to school in Pennsylvania College. So talk about like your early childhood and then going into college.
Yeah, I am a real Army brat. I feel like that's an old school phrase, but yeah, my mom and dad were in the Army, and so I lived everywhere from Arizona to Texas and Georgia, Germany. I really grew up in Germany, Kansas, Oklahoma, and yeah, and then we ended up in Kansas City, and I always just saw myself in the future as a stockbroker or a businessman, just someone in a suit. Um, and so, yeah, I wanted to go to a business school so I could be a businessman. And I applied to the Wharton School at Penn. That's the only college I applied to, and ended up going there. And been in New York for the past 20 plus years now.
So when you did go to college, so business was something you always wanted to get into. Was there any other dream job like beyond business, or it was just specifically business?
Yeah.
You knew as a kid, it wasn't like I don't know, some other like dream job or something, but business was it.
No, I just saw myself in the future um, wearing a suit and doing something where my compensation was based on my intelligence and risk taking and just my maneuvering. And so that just sounded like business. I didn't have any particular business industry designs. Just like, I'll be a businessman one day.
Yeah, and it seems like it's one of those degrees like, you can do anything with. So it wasn't like go to school, I don't know, liberal arts, but what's your fallback plan if that doesn't work out? Or, what kind of job can you get with that? Business is always in demand, I guess, no matter what
Yeah.
industry.
In at Wharton, at least when I was there, I imagine it's not too different now, but most people studied finance or accounting, and so there's a specific sort of route. There's a paths that are pretty clear that you can take from there, like well-paying paths. I studied strategic management, like business strategy. So I remember having lunch with one of my professors who was like, he's like, strategic management. What are you going to do with that? That is the liberal arts of the business school. Is not a hardcore degree. And I was like, I'm trying to learn how to think about business and learn how to make decisions, and learn from other people's mistakes and victories. Um, and that's what I do today. Every day I'm thinking about business strategy and how to make choices.
Okay, so then in 2000, so you graduate and then you move to New York City, and you get into the business industry, right? Venture capital. And so what was that like then? With at that point, you wanted to end up in New York in business, and that was it.
Yeah. Um, I graduated and then I worked at PwC, which it is a huge company. I think it was like 40,000 people at the time. And so me being just out of college, it didn't matter if I showed up or not. Like I wasn't that meaningful of a contribution. So I hated that. My first day I started there, I was like, I'm going to quit this job. And so yeah, I barely showed up, and then I went from there to a startup, and I didn't even know it was these things were called startups. But then I worked at a small VC advisory shop, so we would help companies like with their business plans, like if they're raising Series B, Series C, like we help them to sort of figure out how they're going to grow and to help them raise money. And yeah, that was a lot of work, but there's maybe 8 or 10 of us in that company. If I didn't show up, you knew, and there was an effect, and so that's more what felt good to me. Me being there mattered.
Yeah, because you felt
And
like you
so,
had a contribution to a business, like an
right,
actual contribution.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, so that was meaningful, and then this is around 2001, the internet bubble burst. September 11th happened. It was just like a lot of chaos, and so a lot of people were getting laid off. Both on the startup side, internet bubble burst for younger folks. It's like when all these companies, Pets.com, all these internet companies had raised all this money. They had all these high valuations. People just like stopped believing in the internet, and all these businesses like went out of business. All these valuations went down, and then the bigger companies, the Morgan Stanleys and Goldman Sachs, they started laying off people. So even my super well educated Wharton friends, like a lot of them were getting laid off. I got laid off. And that was September 11th, and the sort of terror that gripped the nation then. It was just
Mhm.
like a really crazy time, and yeah, it was tough. It was very tough for not just me, but for a lot of people at that time. Um, but I lived in downtown Manhattan at that time, and I had a couple of roommates, and and then my cousin had moved to the New York City area. He'd actually lived in Jersey, and he was a producer, a rap producer, and an aspiring rapper, and he was doing well. He was his career was ascending. He had out of college and he's in rap business, and he was doing his thing and growing. And all of my friends that were super educated, we were all not doing so great. I'm thinking about moving back to Texas with my mom at this time, and so I just started realizing like maybe there's another way here. Maybe you going to college and getting your degree and getting the job in a good company, maybe that's not as safe as you think. Um, and so, yeah, that really affected my thinking a lot at that time. At least if I'm going to be broke, let me be broke on my terms, doing what I want, not working at a big company or working for someone else. And I, I, I stopped working at companies basically at that time.
And I mean, was that the first time then in your life that you did kind of have doubts? I mean, obviously, like, throughout school, there's kind of like a plan, right? You go to school, you graduate, you get a good job, and to that point, you had that, right? Until, like you mentioned, September 11th, being laid off. What am I going to do after that?
Yeah, I think that was probably the first time that there was some sort of significant, like, you're not enough. I couldn't pay my rent for months. Um, and, I mean, and a lot of us couldn't. And typically I did. I do pretty well at things I do. So yeah, that was probably the first time that there was some doubt as to my decision making. And again, seeing my cousin who was like he did all the wrong things, quote unquote, but he was taking off. So yeah, I certainly doubted some decisions at that time.
And I heard the story of you working with your cousin Kanye. Did you at the time, like, so was that then your plan? Okay, maybe I can, work with him. Maybe he's got something here, and I can, build off that. Like the story of like you burning CDs and those sorts of things, working with him. Was that kind of like the next step in your career? Is, hey, I'll try this kind of entrepreneur thing rather than trying to find another steady job with a good company, with a bank or in the business industry. Like, is that
Um,
what happened next?
Well, it was more accidental. I didn't really decide to do that. I just figured I liked what he was doing, and so let me help him. So yeah, I was out of work and looking for a job, but Kanye had moved to Hoboken, I think, at that time, and actually Newark. He's even farther than Hoboken, and yeah, he wanted to be a rapper, and so I had these connections through Wharton, and so I was like, I like what you're doing. Maybe we can get my friend to write an article about you. So I went to my friend who was a writer at XXL Hip Hop magazine,
Mhm.
and she wrote the first article about Kanye West, the first article he ever had written about. And so that was like 2001, 2002, and so that was great. And then also, I had another friend that worked at William Morris in the basement, like mailroom at William Morris. So I was like, he wanted to have concerts. So I said, there's a booking agent who I keep hearing her name in songs, Kara Lewis, and she apparently represents Eminem and all the top rappers.
Sure.
She's at William Morris. I know a girl that works at William Morris. I didn't realize that working in the mailroom is not exactly like you don't have access to like the senior people. I'm just like, oh, she works at William Morris, so we can go there and get a meeting.
Right.
So I went to my friend. I'm like, hey, my cousin raps. Can we get a meeting with Kara Lewis? And she's like, well, I work in the mailroom. I don't exactly have access to the top earners here. I'm like, I don't know, like just get us a meeting. So somehow she did. And so we go meet with Kara Lewis, and it's me and Kanye and another guy who works with him, um, Amy
Okay.
Tunick, the young lady that worked in the mailroom. And so somehow she had asked for a meeting, and we got this meeting with Kara Lewis. Go in her office. Every inch of the walls was covered with plaques, gold and platinum plaques from the floor to the ceiling across the around the whole room. And then she's like, all right, so tell me, like, what do you want to do? And he just goes over to her CD player. CD player is like a machine where you put a silver round thing in it and it plays music for those that haven't seen it. But
Right. Yeah, that's true.
um so yeah, he goes in, he puts in a CD. She didn't even ask like about like the music. Puts in the CD, turns on the music, jumps on a table, starts performing like he's at Madison Square Garden. We're all just like, what the hell is happening right now? And I don't even think he had a record deal at that time. He had no songs out or whatever. And by the time we left that room, she said, "I'm going to be your agent. Let's get started here."
Oh my
And
God.
so
That's an
after
interesting
that,
story.
yeah. And so then we're walking down the street after that. He just went in his pocket. He pulled out a couple $100. He gave it to me, and he said, "I want you to be with me every day." And so that's how I started working with him.
And then that's when, like, the burning the CDs for him. Was he coming up
That's
with
when,
beats, right, for certain
yeah,
artists?
he was making tons of beats. He was a producer and selling this music, and it took so long to make a CD because at that time, this is before iTunes existed. You had to literally hit record on a CD burner. You had to hit play on another CD, wait for the whole song to play, then pause. It was a long process. And he didn't have time to burn CDs all day, so I did. Um, among other things, um, that was a big part of my job was burning CDs, but not just burning CDs. Um, I had probably a couple thousand beats of Kanye's, and so if someone is Nelly might be working on a new album at that time. So then I would go through these couple thousand beats and I would pick the best ones for Nelly. So it's not just the burning CDs. I'm actually choosing the music that's we're selling to these artists. And I had other functions too, but that was a part of it for sure.
So this was actually, I mean, a decent business at the time and kind of revolutionary, right? I mean, at that time period.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was very in demand. So we definitely stayed busy, like moving around those beat tapes. But then also we start putting out his own music, his mixtapes. And so we have some classic mixtapes like Get Well Soon. Like he got in a car accident, had a Get Well Soon mixtape, I'm Good mixtape, Louis Vuitton Don. These are like in the early 2000s. These are like classic mixtapes that came from my apartment in Manhattan.
And then so eventually he would have a label. Is that right? How the next
Yeah,
like step of the process?
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, he put out his own music, and that took off. And then so all these record companies were offering to, bankroll him. He's a great producer, great artist. So here's money, make a label, produce other people, and we'll sell those records and take the money from. So he started Good Music. That's the name of it. Good for stands for Getting Out Our Dreams, and helped him start that. And my roommate at the time, is my college roommate, and then my roommate in New York City was an awesome singer. So at this time, when I'm working with Kanye, I'm also playing in my roommate's band. So I was DJing for his band, and we would perform at weddings and bars, like in Philadelphia and in New York. And he was just a brilliant artist. And so I would tell Kanye, like, at the new label, we got to sign my roommate. So we did. We signed my roommate to be the first artist on Good Music. And then we changed his name. His artist name was John Stevens. And um, I think him changing his name is probably one of the biggest choices of his career. But he changed his name to John Legend.
yeah.
And um, actually, one of our friends, Jay Ivy, he started calling him just John Legend, John Legend. And so it just caught on. Then we just legally changed the artist name. And that's the artist that we all know and love today.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that story because I saw him recently at an intimate venue, and he was talking about the story of his life and growing up in Ohio and learning to play piano after church and those sorts of things. And at the same time, you went to school together, so you were both in business, and he had moved, I think, was it to Boston first, and then New York? So he was in business too, right? Similar path to you, and then transitioned into obviously music full time, but it's the same kind of path, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was on a better path. He worked at Boston Consulting Group, and I wish I could have got a job at Boston Consulting Group out of college. I did end up getting an offer there after business school, but
Mhm.
yeah, he was certainly a professional and very organized, and yeah, eventually the music got big enough that he could quit his job, but it took years. Yeah, he was a working business guy for years before becoming a musician full time.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that most people don't realize is sometimes how long it takes to get to the quote unquote top of your game. Yeah, I found his concert really interesting because he kind of told the story of his life and then would play music as it kind of progressed through his life. It was a very unique concert, and it was just him on piano, and it was him telling stories with photographs behind. It was real. I was really impressed by it, and the style of the concert too. It was a unique experience.
Yeah, yeah. John is brilliant. Hopefully he mentioned me in his
he did, yeah.
deal.
He mentioned, yeah, he went through in detail, his whole story. So yeah, it was an interesting story. Um, and but like for you with music, you worked with other artists too along the way, Nas and Britney Spears, Aretha
I
Franklin,
think I lost you there.
and then you go on to win 2 Grammys. So what was that like? Working with all those artists and then winning Grammys. I mean, obviously you're going to business school. Did you ever think at the time that someday, one, you would get into music, and two, you would win Grammys?
Never,
Never.
never, never. Um, yeah, that was an exciting time. I mean, we were making music that at that time it was like the zeitgeist. It was like the happening sort of sound. And working with Kanye's music Well, I guess I'll take a step back. Like I said, I would be burning these CDs for hours every day. So I'm hearing Kanye's music, which at the time was like the top music. And I'm hearing stuff no one else is hearing for hours a day. And I was a DJ, so I had some aptitude with music. So then I started making beats. And they're certainly influenced by Kanye because that's my team. That's the company I work for, and that's the music I'm hearing all day. And so I became like, I started producing John, and we lived together. So I just be like, hey, look at this. I made this beat today. He's like, oh, this sounds good. I'll write a song to it. So that's how we started just making songs. And then his first album, I produced like half his first album. And then he was successful. And then I produced Kanye. And then from there, now I'm producing some of the hottest acts out. Now I get access to Aretha Franklin and Nas and all the Common and all these great artists. So it was an exciting time. Never thought I would win a Grammy, but I do. I mean, those songs did like kick ass. Those are awesome songs that I made. So I fully at the time I was like, yeah, I should win because we're the best. I'm one of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and what people may not realize, and then you eventually transitioned so from business to music and now to tech. And that's really a good chunk of your life now. And you would go on to be a product manager at Venmo, and then you taught yourself to code, right? And then eventually find what is your current company. So talk a little bit about that transition, one into tech, learning to code, and founding your own company.
Yeah, so at some point I figured I had success with music, and I was probably like approaching 30. I was around 30, and I figured I think there's a shelf life for being a musician, at least musician like me, and in like urban music. And so I didn't want to age out and sort of be 40, 50 trying to sell music. And not just that, but I thought like I'm still a business person. And so what other businesses can I get into that can scale more than an artist or a record company? And the internet was blowing up. And I'm like, that's real. There's billions of dollars and just so many amazing things that you can create. All these new sort of opportunities and products are going to be in the world. So I'm still young enough that I can reset my career and go do something else. I can have a whole new career. So I went to business school at Columbia for my MBA, and the plan was to go into private equity. And I was going to be, a plan was I would work in a big office, and I would be the cool guy in the office that gets the concert tickets. But like we're doing $1 billion deals and just wheeling and dealing. I mean, doing some private equity or something. And so that was the idea. And yeah, it turns out these firms. I was applying for private equity jobs, and turns out these firms were not looking for retired rap producers. But also, when I was in grad school, I was still working on music stuff. I would fly to Hawaii to work with Kanye, and I had a record label. And so while I was in school, for my label, I put out an album for this band that was signed to my label. And we want to put out a music video, but it has to be something cool. It has to be something like groundbreaking. And so we made this interactive music video. And this is like 11 years ago now, 12 years ago. And on YouTube, we made what I think is the first sort of choose your own adventure music video, where you literally choose what happens in the video. So what was interesting though was that we put out a regular video on YouTube. You see the comments saying like this song sucks. It's called Attack of the 5 Foot Hipster. It's still on YouTube. So then the next week we put out the same music video, but this time it was interactive. It's the same music, it's the same visuals, except we'd added a couple buttons so you could choose which scene you would see next. And then you see the comments, people saying, oh man, this song is awesome. Oh, this is going to be a hit. And they watched it longer. and they said the song sounded better, and they shared it more, and they went to our website and paid for the music, and they weren't doing that the previous week. The only difference was that we added a couple of buttons that people could engage with that content. So next thing you know, all these companies start contacting me saying, how do we make videos like this? And so the more I thought about it, the more I realized one day this is going to be normal on the internet. Of course, our media will be flexible, more dynamic, just like everything else on the internet. And so then that's when I actually got a job offer from Boston Consulting Group when I graduated from business school. And I turned it down because I'm like, I think this is going to be a thing. I think video is going to be more dynamic one day, and I could bet on myself and help bring that to market. So yeah, I didn't know anything about technology. I taught myself Flash and started making little tools. And at this point, 12 years later, I'm probably the most advanced person on this planet when it comes to interactive media. So yeah, but that's how we got started. Now we have engineering teams and design teams and whatnot. So it definitely came a long way. And I as a producer and as a musician, I don't know how to play music. I don't actually know the notes or anything, but I'm able to. I know how to get the right people in the room. I know how to direct them to deliver the right product. And another guy might play guitar, but he can't make the product that I can make music. It's the same thing with technology. I don't code really, especially not anymore. But I know what the market wants, and I get the right people in the room to put together these products. So yeah, it's really the same thing. How do we make cutting edge media products, whether it's an artist, a album, a technology, and then how do we build a global audience for it? That's really what my life has been.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost like you married both industries, right? Your background in business, and then developing this tool, and then marrying that with music. So it's interesting, and I'll put a link to the website in the show notes of this episode.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah.
So I guess whether in music, tech, business, is there anyone that you haven't worked with that would be like a dream collaboration with? Within any industry?
I mean, when it comes to music, I worked with. I mean, Kanye and John Legend are like two of my favorite artists of all time. I work with Jay-Z. I work with Aretha Franklin, like Nas. So I'm pretty happy with that. I would love to work with the same sort of luminaries in the tech world, and I think we're going to have those opportunities actually. But I'd love to work with the Bob Igers, the open AIs, and the Sam Altmans, like, and we're working on some interesting things that we're starting to collaborate with some of those companies. And so I'll explain actually a little bit of what Adventr actually is. It's probably worth sharing what the hell we're doing.
Sure.
But it started as I mentioned with this crappy music video and a couple of buttons on it. And so the first sort of concept I started working on is like interactive video, and video you could touch and it changes in response. If you've seen like Bandersnatch on Netflix, the interactive show, that's a good sort of example of an interactive experience. But then, we were doing that 10 years ago. So I have thought a lot about, well, what's next? You can touch a video, that's cool, but what else? Like, how else are people engaging with the world around them? How am I engaging with you right now? How are we connecting? We're talking to each other. Like, this is a very human way of expressing and connecting. So why can't I do that with a video? So we actually invented technology, and now we patented it, where you can talk to videos, and the video can hear you and respond to you. Um, what is like just beyond a video, and you can click it or even like say something and it changes. Like it could show me a couple of shirts. I like this red shirt. You could click it. You could say I like it, and then the red shirt might get big, and it says it's $9.99. That's an engagement. That's interesting. Then
Mhm.
what happens? I think there's a future world where you touch it, you talk to it, whatever, and then you get the shirt. The shirt comes to you. So how does that happen? Um, just interacting with the video doesn't actually get you what you want. How do we get you what you want? Well, maybe what if that video was connected to the shirt, the Target, or whatever company is selling that shirt. So when you say, I like that red shirt, I want it, what if Target heard you, charge your credit card, put it in a box and send it to you from you just looking at this thing and talking to it? That sounds like what the future looks like to me. So that's a certain level of connectivity and more than just interaction. It's like real time fulfillment. So that's what we're working on at Adventr. It's not about interacting with a video. It's really about video and media that is connected and can get you what you want, not just clickable, but connected. Um, and so we have a software platform that anyone can use to create these intelligent experiences.
So essentially, any video this could be applied to, um, whether it is music or a television show or really anything that anybody's producing. Maybe even a commercial promoting a product that you can just say you want that product and poof, it gets delivered to you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Video is the vast majority of the internet is video. The
Hmm.
majority of internet traffic by far is video. The average American watches over 5 hours of video a day. Me and you are on video right now. Like
Hmm.
video is the language of life. And when you think about the future, typically you're probably not thinking of a lot of books, a lot of like text, a lot of reading. Think about video and moving images, right? So how does that work? How does this digital future of moving images work? I think the things I'm describing to you are imminent. Like, of course, media is going to be more actionable and more personalized and flexible. Um, and so, but it has to have some sort of design system. It's somewhere you have to set the rules for how this is going to work, and that's what our system does. You can set these rules. You can make entertainment. You can make ads, make educational content, put it on social media, put it on your website, put it on your TV. You can use it. You can use it as ads. So kids use our platform. Fortune 100 companies use our platform. It's super easy. Anyone can make this next generation content.
I mean, essentially, it's taking what we currently have one step further, if you think about it, because Netflix would often say, their biggest competitor is sleep, right? But now with TikTok, like most people are spending more hours watching TikTok than sitting down and watching a Netflix show. Then if you think about like the introduction of like TikTok Shop, right? So now that's this product and you tap the thing and then you can go through the checkout process. But now you can just say it in an interactive video and it gets delivered. So it's taking it one step further and making it even easier.
Yeah, yeah.
It-
Ease. I think that I think everything in life, in terms of business, is really about whether it's healthcare. Let's leave out healthcare for a moment. Everything else is either about entertainment or efficiency. And entertainment, whether that's food, movies, video games, that's that's what a lot of our that's that's what our fun time goes into. If it's not that, any other business to me is how can we um, get make things more efficient so I can get to the entertainment. So a pen, if you have a pen company, how can I communicate things more easily between us so we can communicate faster so we can go to entertainment. But yeah, we're just trying to make media more efficient. Right now, if you not just you, but if a advertiser puts an ad on YouTube or something saying buy our sneakers or this car, less than 1% of people care or activate on it or go, I want to learn more about Ford.
Right.
Significantly less than 1%. You make a piece of content, and we hope millions of people will like it. We hope it encourages them to go buy our car or shirt. I think that's a dated sort of way of looking at the world. And so, with current tools like Adventr, you can now make a video that is personally relevant to each individual. And so what ends up happening is that you're able to sell more cars and sell more sneakers because the media is relevant. And we just make it easy to do that.
Is there one piece of advice you would give to a young person listening or watching this that would want to follow in your footsteps, whether in business, tech, music, anything you've done?
Don't be afraid. You have that idea that you're thinking about doing, but there's so many reasons and excuses why you won't do it. You want to ask that girl out, but there's so many reasons why you shouldn't or won't. Don't live in fear. You will regret more the things that you did not do versus the things that you did do. Take a chance.
All right, makes sense and good advice. Well, Devo, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it, and best of luck to you and your future career. And I look forward to continuing to follow you.
Thank you so much.